Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of Willis Wit and Wisdom. My name is Eric Willis,
And I'm Bob Willis, the dad in this situation.
and I'll be the son. So
All
we've
right.
known each other for over 50 years. It's amazing how that works.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm 52 years old. So.
Exactly. Enjoy it. Uh,
Yeah.
but what we've kind of done is just to kind of recap. When this pandemic hit us, you and I talked about how can we be productive? What kind of resource can we put out there? And we decided, hey, let's do a little Zoom call, record it, and make it available on our social media. So that's where Willis Wit
Right.
and Wisdom came out of.
It happened. Yep.
And so we try to answer questions about life and loss because your history is in pastoral ministry and grief counseling and hospice care type. And I've been in pastoral ministry and leadership development for a number of years. So um, we thought, hey, we know a few things. We don't know it all, but those
Mm.
things that we can speak into, we'd love to put stuff out there.
Right, right, right. And one of the things from my pastoring experience, one of the things that I found to be a challenge is how do you take care of yourself? And
Mm,
I'm still working on that, by the way, of how to take care of myself because I'm structured within to just I'm motivated and driven from the inside. I feel like I have some tools and some things to share, and I want to do that and touch as many lives as possible. One of the things I find out, there's a term called burnout that we've come across, and sometimes ministers get so tired and weary into work and feel like we're just obligated to continue. There needs to be a way that we can just call timeout. If you watch a sports program, every sport will have the ability to call timeout, to just stop, rethink, replan, and go back into the work. And as ministers and workers, we need to find that same way to do it. Call time out.
yeah, that's a good way to put it. And burnout, it's very real. There are different terms for it, compassion fatigue,
Right. Right.
but it really hits the clergy, and that's what I study for my doctoral work is the well-being of clergy and burnout, depression, all these things. There are negative consequences to not doing positive things early in your
Mhm.
ministry. Uh,
Right. Yep.
but it's not too late to incorporate some things. Matter of fact, I was reading a study this morning, and it was put out last month, um, where it talked about the flourishing pastor uh, lives out the values that they say they believe. So if you
Mm.
think about that for a minute, what do you believe? What do we believe as pastors? What are the values that we hold? Um, we value family. We value work. We value God's word. We value the church. We value um, health, or do we?
Mhm.
We may
Yep.
say we do. And
Mhm.
that's what this study was talking about is living the values that we say we believe actually increases the flourishing component of pastors and clergy.
All right.
And so the real sticking point is how do we do that though? So Dad,
Mhm.
you were a pastor of a small church, a couple of small churches in your
Right.
pastorate.
Right.
And I can imagine there were some pressures that you felt to be on all the time. And how did you deal with that?
Exactly. Right. Because the pressure was almost like, okay, it's almost like I was an employee of the church and the people, and I was expected to just be instantly available for anything and everything. And almost to the point where I felt guilty if I just left town for a day because I felt like something might happen. So what I found the way to help me overcome that was to make sure things were covered. If I was going to be away, I could have someone else that would be the go-to person until I got back in town. And so that helps to take a load off. And the same thing filtered all the way over through my hospice years too. If I was a grief counselor basically for 16 years on 24/7 call, and so if I was going to be out of town, I wanted to make sure everything else was covered, and I didn't have to do it all. One of those small churches I pastored in East Tennessee was such a blessing when I went there because they had it structured that on those months that had 5 Sundays, and there's 4 of them a year, they said that on that Sunday, Pastor, we want you and your family to just get out of town. Just go away. We'll cover everything. We'll have someone preach that morning. We'll sing that night. But just want you to disappear. That was built in to take
Mhm.
care of me. And the more I read the word, I remember that God rested on the seventh day. So he stopped creating. he rested. And so we need to do that too, is figure out a way that we can stop creating just to rest. I read something just recently, Eric, it really made me smile because I read it. It was saying that Jesus took naps. He really did. He was napping in a boat,
Yeah.
and the disciples woke him up and say, "Hey, there's a storm going on. Don't you care?"
Mm.
So it's okay for us to take the naps and call time out for self-care. We have to do that, or else we will get burned out. But we can't do it all. But making sure that other things are covered while we're able to pull back from it.
Yeah, absolutely. And part of the conversation that happens among pastors is we feel called. And so, yes, there's a job that we have. There are people that we're responsible to within the church as an organization, but the church is also an organism. It needs the organizational structure, but it is a spiritual entity. The church belongs to Jesus, and there is a Holy Spirit movement within the church. And so we're called to the church. And so holding on to this concept that I've been called to do this work sometimes pushes us to say yes to a lot more things than we should or ought in order for our health to be good.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Right. It does make sense. In fact, even in my grief work, one of the things I tell people right up front when I lead a grief support group is I'm responsible to you, but I'm not responsible for you. And I think pastors can grasp that. We have a responsibility to the church that we pastor, but we're not responsible for each person in a sense. So we can't control everything that they do and say. So if we can divide that line a little bit and find out what our responsibility is to the people that we're pastoring, that we're leading, that we really care for. And some of that comes back to us too, that we have to be responsible for ourselves. Okay. No one can be responsible for us but ourselves.
And there it is. It is up to us to make a decision to be intentional with taking a break. And taking a break for personal health reasons, taking a break for your mental health, taking a break is not a negative thing. You're not taking a break to get away from people. You're taking a break in order to be able to minister more effectively to people.
Right, exactly. And I've always heard it, death is God's way of saying slow down, Well, I came real close to that a few times in the last year, a couple of heart attacks, and just recently, about a month ago, it really snuck up on me. I thought I was doing well. All of a sudden I wasn't doing well, but it's caused me to rethink some things and yes, definitely slow down, restructure some things, and try to do a little bit more self-care. That has not been my priority as much. And so, you have to work smarter, not harder. So that's where I'm in the process trying to learn that, and it's hard to learn.
Yeah. And that's the thing is we know what we need to do. There's nothing new that we have to teach people on taking a break from ministry. But and that's what this article that I was reading was talking about, was living values. If you value your health, if you value ministering to other people, you realize that it is a ministry out of the overflow of your heart. It's the way God's designed them. His desire is to comfort you through the things that you're going through in life, so that in turn you may be a comfort to others.
Right.
It's an overflow of your spiritual well-being. And that's my heartbeat and passion for pastors and missionaries and those in ministry leadership, is for you to understand that there is a well-being component to you, that God is wired in for you to be able to minister to others out of an overflow of your life and your love, which is connected to his compassion. That's what motivates us, right? We're motivated by the compassion.
Right. Well said.
Which is another reason why we won't stop, because we see there's so much hurt, so much need. And so I just want to challenge you. This will be my word of the day. I just want to challenge you to be intentional in living what you believe. Live what you believe. Take care of yourself. Take a break. Not to get away from people, but to allow God to minister to you, so that in turn you can minister to others more effectively.
Right. Simple put, it's almost like pull away so we can recharge our batteries.
Mm.
Because our batteries will be run down, we can recharge them and step back in as a renewed spirit with that overflow. And I like that concept of ministry and overflow. That's the way it must be.
Yeah. Well, Dad, thanks for taking time to speak into this with me today. And how can folks find you, and what might they find when they see you?
A good way to contact me is you can email me at rwillis14@cox.net. One of the best ways to find me is on Facebook. I have a presence there under Bob Willis, and you'll see this face with a piece of sculpture. And each morning I'll write an article about grief and about survival each morning on Facebook, the morning moment. So you're welcome to tap into that, and it has my email there also. That's the best way to find me. How do they locate Eric Willis?
Yep. They can find me at reclaimleadership.org. That's the website for the ministry that I have to pastors and missionaries and ministry leaders to infuse hope and biblical perspective as we do this ministry thing. Reclaimleadership.org. You can contact me there. And I'm also on Facebook, Reclaim Leadership. And I do a Monday mindset reset where I just put a thought out there of encouragement to kind of reset the mind and refocus as we begin a week of ministry. So Dad, thanks for hanging out with us today. I love you. Great to see you.
All right. Love you too, E. All right. Thanks, folks.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.